Hi everyone, my name is Aundreya, and you're here with us to discuss the Persian Film Festival. Thank you for joining us, first and foremost. We are doing an interview series with the judges of the Persian Film Festival, and we were talking to them about what they liked, what they disliked, and what advice that they can offer to filmmakers around the world. To be successful at what they do and doing the things that we love. Right now, we're here with Kai Smith, who was one of the judges for the Persian Film Festival 2026. And just to remind you that the Persian Film Festival starts on March 1st, 2026, in different cities around the world. And then the winners are announced on March 8th, 2026, in Toronto, Ontario. I'm in Toronto, Ontario. Kai Smith, one of our judges. Where are you?
I'm currently in Los Angeles. Live in Woodland Hills on the west side of the valley. So, yep.
Oh, well, thank you for joining us. You know what? Thank you for joining us. I'm going to leave it at that. Movies and films are the space where we can be apolitical and we can just be a community of film lovers and art lovers alike. And I guess my first question for you, Kai, is especially since you hail from Los Angeles, is as a judge for this year's Persian Film Festival, what has been your most surprising discovery regarding the narrative style or the aesthetic of Persian films?
So that's a great question, Andrea. The most surprising discovery is how boldly younger Persian filmmakers are hybridizing the classical poetic realism with fragmented, almost essay-like structures and bolder visual styles. You still see and feel the quiet humanism and metaphor, but it's now filtered through phonetic editing, genre elements, and digital aesthetics that reflect the life lived simultaneously on the street and online.
Okay. And what do you have to say about that poetic realism? Because Persian films are known for their poetic realism throughout the world. Um, do you see a shift in the current generation of Persian filmmakers into going in towards new genres such as sci-fi or psychological thrillers? Or
Yes, definitely. I definitely see that there's a notable shift into genre, especially when it comes to psychological thrillers. Of course, near future dystopias or socially, inflected sci-fi as well. What is distinctive is that these films still carry the same layered allegory and political subtlety. Even a thriller or sci-fi piece feels like an extension of that older poetic tradition rather than a break from it.
right, right, and especially with Persian filmmakers putting their spin on it in the geographical area that they live in, it could definitely feel like just a different lens or a deeper lens into their artistry, I believe. How do you feel that the themes in this year's selection of films reflect the contemporary Persian identity compared to the identity of past decades? The films or the stories that the films in past decades tried to tell.
Well, of course, the films in past decades often, at least from my understanding, often explored rural life, childhood, and everyday mortality through, of course, minimalism. And now the films this year feel a lot more urban, fractured, and explicitly preoccupied with constraint, migration, and internal exile. Of course, contemporary Persian identity on screen now includes diasporic viewpoints, gendered resistance, and minority stories such as, of course, Afghans in Iran, or a lot of different minority stories that are being told all around the world. Of course, which broadens the sense of who is allowed to be at the center of a Persian film.
Very no, that's actually very true. The leads do make a difference. From your experience as an international expert, what is the best hidden gem or the best quality of Persian films that the global market has yet to fully appreciate?
The hidden gem is a way that Persian films can, smuggle complex geopolitical and ethical questions into deceptively simple and everyday situations. The talent for metaphor under pressure, which is shaped by censorship and underground production, often means that these films, reward repeat viewing in a way that many buyers still underestimate commercially. So I feel like that is what the biggest hidden gem is.
Can you clarify that? They reward, what did you say?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you said that
Like I
they
was saying, the
reward
talent
something.
for metaphor under pressure means that these films often. Oh, I'm sorry. These films often reward repeat viewing in a way that many viewers or buyers still underestimate commercially. So yeah,
Actually,
essentially, it's a reward for repeat viewing that may catch things that you don't see necessarily on the first time.
and that's true because if you can find them, a lot of these films that you actually end up wanting to watch again. And that is the thing. Like Persian filmmakers have a lot of barriers and obstacles that they need to overcome. What do you think are the main barriers preventing Persian films from achieving mainstream commercial success in theaters outside of the festival circuit?
Another great question. The barriers are a mix of structural and political. I would say sanctions, financing restrictions, and censorship make consistent production, marketing, and travel incredibly difficult. On the market side, there is limited P&A support. Tendency to typecast, Iranian cinema as niche art house, and lack a long-term distribution strategies that could build recognizable Persian stars or brands for general audiences. So I feel like those are the main barriers for commercial success outside festivals.
Okay, and that's true because you just mentioned art house films, and Persian films are known for being art house films, and they often focus on that, especially festivals. Do you see a path for Persian screenwriters to contribute to international streaming platforms beyond art house outputs that are typical of the geographical area?
Well, yes. I mean, and there's a lot of reasons why. Of course, that could be due to the emotional core, whether that's family conflict, dignity under pressure, more ambiguity. I feel like a lot of these things are absolutely universal, and audiences everywhere would respond to that. So
Right, they just have to get past those initial barriers that are stopping them from or to make sure that their films can be screened. Um, what do you think are the logistical and creative best practices for a Persian filmmaker looking to start a joint venture project with an international producer, or just to break down some of those barriers that you mentioned before?
I would say be specific and be prepared. You definitely need to know your log line, target territories, comparable films, and approach distributors at appropriate times rather than ambushing them. You want to follow up with concise emails, links to screeners, and a clear sense of your next project so they see you as a long-term partner and not a one-off transaction.
So, expanding on that, what advice would you give to directors who are looking to build these relationships with screeners or looking to build these relationships at the film festival? What advice would you give to them about networking with international distributors during the festival?
Well, like I said, I mean, of course, a major prize can change your life overnight, but of course, me personally, I value sustained networking and relationship building. I feel like those are more reliable over your the span of your career. Ideally, you want both. A good festival slot for visibility and a deliberate strategy for meeting programmers, producers, and critics who will who will keep following your work after, of course, this one film.
Absolute facts. It is building that network. So I guess with this next question, I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. In your experience, which is more important for a filmmaker's international breakout? Is it the prestige of a festival win or the networking opportunities that the festival can provide? I think I know what you're going to say, but I just want to hear you say
No,
it.
No, definitely the networking, I would say, is the more important over the span of your career. I mean, like I said, like I was saying, a major prize could change your life overnight, but I feel like for sustainable success in your career, you definitely want to have a lot of networking opportunities and build a good community and network that you could rely on. Like past, like I said, this one film. So I feel like that would be the most beneficial thing for creators, directors, producers, or just anybody really just trying to break into the industry is they say your network is your net worth, and I truly believe that.
Okay. Do you believe that Persian storytelling is inherently universal, or does it require cultural translation to succeed in markets like Europe or North America? Or do you believe it could just be sent out there and do its thing as is?
I mean, I definitely believe that the stories are universal. I feel like we all come from, I mean, of course, we come from different backgrounds, but we all have similar life experiences. So I definitely feel that we definitely don't need necessarily to, of course, make sure that we have everything under, I guess subtitles or whatnot. I feel like these stories are inherently universal and they translate to, all walks of life. So that's how I feel.
That's I honestly feel that way too. I mean, I like seeing movies from different parts of the world because it informs my North American framework. So, and we all need that, some perspective. Um, okay, in your opinion, outside of directing and acting, in which technical areas like cinematography or sound design or VFX or production design do you see as the most valuable or the most potential for Persian filmmakers to be recruited by global studios? So basically, the crew, beyond the directing, beyond the above the line crew, the writers, the directors, the producers. How do the cinematographers or how do the art directors? How do they make themselves attractive to major studios to be recruited by them?
Um, Cinematography and sound design stand out because working under budget and censorship constraints has produced crews who are exceptionally resourceful and strong with natural locations and non-professional actors. Editing and script consultancy for character-driven dramas are also where Persian professionals could plug into international productions and streaming series. So I feel like outside of directing and acting, those are the most technical areas that have the most potential for Persian professionals globally.
Okay, but how do you make them like how do you get the attention of the likes of an Amazon or an A24 if you want to go production wise or production company wise? Like how do they do that?
I mean, necessarily you want to not. I would say you don't want to tell the same stories that have been told necessarily. I mean, I feel like at a certain point you need to have a unique twist with how you're telling these stories. You want to find something to, of course, appeal to the generation that you're trying to, you know, that you're trying to make these movies for. Necessarily what might have worked, a couple decades ago may not work to for an audience now. And I feel like the biggest thing is knowing your audience and adapting with the times as well too. So, of course, I mean, it is good to have a good, compelling story, but you just need to make sure that it also connects and resonates with the audience that you're trying to make the story for. So I feel like those are definitely ways to try to be different. I feel like that's the biggest thing. Everybody wants to, try to fit inside a box, but I feel like necessarily beating your own path and creating your own lane is the best way to, of course, try to get in front of these, Amazons or Netflixes or the Disneys of the world.
Right.
Because I mean, as you
Go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you off.
no, I no, sorry, no. I mean, I feel like that's really the biggest way to get in front of them because they're always looking for what's new, what's hot, and of course, ultimately, what sells. So,
True. Facts. So wait, do you think that there's specific tropes or storytelling cliches that international audiences are tired of or that Persian filmmakers should try to avoid, or it's everything fair game as long as it's a good story?
honestly, I think everything's fair game as long as it's a fair story. I mean, I feel like there's nothing really new under the sun. We've been telling the same stories. I feel like for as long as storytelling has been a thing. So, like I said, I feel like as long as it's compelling, it's deep. It's resonates with your audience. I feel like that's really the biggest thing that these companies are looking for nowadays.
Okay, definitely. Yeah, the resonation, and there's also the whole money aspect of it, and but that's a model that's constantly changing. So who knows what that's going to be in the future. But in your okay, in your opinion of making films, while you're making films, I have to ask, w- while you're making the film, or while you're watching the film, how important is the pacing of a film when translating, when going from a film that is made for the local Persian market to a film that's made for international markets? How's the pacing? How should it change?
Well, you
Does
need
the
to,
pacing?
like I said, you just need to know your audience. Okay. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to cut you off now.
No, no,
What were you
no,
saying?
no, no. You were answering. I was still talking. It's cool. Just answer. It's good. We got edits. Go ahead.
That's okay. No, I mean, like I said, I feel like the biggest thing is just like knowing your audience because the pace that may necessarily work for a Persian audience may not necessarily work for a U.S. or an international audience. Where I mean, I feel like nowadays everything is more so short form, short content, and I feel like as we progressed throughout the years, I feel like people's attention spans are getting a lot shorter. I'm saying
Hmm.
so
True.
necessarily, long drawn out narrative driven story, which may appeal to Persian audience may not necessarily work for an international audience, specifically probably in the United States as well too. Just because I feel like now we're in this short form content area where everybody wants everything to be bite sized and easily digestible. And like I said, and that may not necessarily translate for said American or international audiences. But like I said, I just feel like the pacing is not a huge part of would make a movie, of course, detrimental to its, I guess, success. But I'd feel like it is something to be aware of, definitely.
Okay. Okay. Well, then I honestly think that's a great answer. Just make sure that you are speaking to your audience and that your audience can hear you in your storytelling format. Our final question for this evening is Kai. If you can give one piece of tough love advice to the filmmakers that we've seen this week to help them achieve their global longevity, what would that be?
The tough love is, I would say, stop making films only for festivals, and of
Ah.
course, start designing careers. That means, of course, thinking beyond one premiere, building a body of work, cultivating ongoing collaborators and audiences, and treating each festival as one step in a long strategic journey rather than an endpoint. I feel like that would be my one tough love for filmmakers seeking global longevity. No, it's not
Right.
just this one festival. You're really just trying to build a portfolio and a body of work that is sustainable. Of course, like I said, not only for Persian audiences but for international audiences worldwide. So.
Right, and get people interested in your specific body of work. Is
Hmm.
that correct?
I agree.
Okay. You said okay.
No,
All
no,
right.
that is correct. No, that's yeah.
Love it. Okay, cool. Kai, that's all there is. Thank you for answering our questions. I appreciate it. I think that you've given us a perspective that's uniquely, not only is it uniquely North American, but it also is speaking from a person of color to a genre and community of filmmakers that are of color but from the other side of the world. And it's just really important, like you said, to make those connections and to have people interested in what you do regardless of where you're from. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for taking the time here to to give us your insight and to share your knowledge and experience with us. As I mentioned before, the Persian Film Festival starts on March 1st in different cities throughout the world. And then the winners that are announced on March 8th, 2026. in Toronto, Canada. So come on by, and we'll see you for the next interview.
Well, looking forward to it, Andrea. The pleasure's all mine.
Thank you so much.